Good afternoon, UTLA family, parents, educators, and community members who have joined us here today. Thank you for joining me in this virtual space. Recently, I saw a sign on a UTLA member's wall during the Zoom meeting. It read, "The future of the world is in my classroom today." Simple, but powerful. And that is true for all UTLA members, teachers, educators, psychologists, counselors, social workers, school librarians, school nurses, and so many more of you. You all work with the future every single day. I'll have updates today on bargaining with the district on in-person services for our highest needs students, what we know so far about the district's vaccination plans, and how you can take action to protect instructional time and reduce the overassessment of students during the pandemic. I have to start with that inauguration of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. I know many of you watched the beautiful ceremony with your students and turned it into a true teaching moment. I also know from Facebook posts that I wasn't the only one who was moved to tears. I wept thinking of my father, who was no longer with us. I wish I could tell him that a biracial woman who looks like me is the second most powerful person in this United States. I remember when my daddy searched for months for a Black Cabbage Patch doll because he wanted me to have a doll who looked like me. He couldn't find one. And he had to tell me, "Cess, they didn't make enough. There were never enough." I want to tell my father that I don't have to dream, Daddy, because I can see me finally. For all of us who could never find a doll who looked like us, this is indescribable. Representation truly matters. And then Youth Poet Laureate Amanda Gorman took the stage and pierced my soul with her words. Where we can find light in this never-ending shade, and yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. Amanda Gorman, native of Los Angeles and daughter of a teacher, stunned the nation. Her words are still with me today. That is what poems can do. That is what art can do. For educators who want to explore the meaning and the message behind Amanda Gorman's poem, we'll post some links to lesson plans in the chat below. Yesterday, Giovanni's teacher, Miss Thornton, showed their class the video, and then they were tasked with creating their own poem. I have to say, his is pretty good. In accordance with our second semester side letter agreement, we continue bargaining with the district on a plan to provide targeted services for high needs student groups. That will be followed by bargaining over plans for a hybrid physical return. Bargaining and reaching an agreement on these plans for in-person service does not mean that providing such service is imminent. We have to bargain such plans to prevent the district from unilaterally determining the working conditions for in-person service if and when it becomes safe. The district has proposed a plan that would require in-person service for regular special education instruction, regular early education instruction, designated instructional services for students with IEPs and 504s, special education assessments, EL assessments, one-on-one and small group tutoring, school-based distance learning for prioritized student groups, which include EL students, foster youth, and homeless youth, with substitute teachers providing in-person supervision. The district proposal includes an additional $3.50 per hour for in-person service, exemption from in-person service for unit members with a medically verified health risk, adherence to all LA County Health Department guidelines, and district provided PPE. We've pushed back on their proposal, arguing that the breadth of services is too broad and that their plan doesn't include enough details about how it would be implemented in a safe, fair, and equitable manner for members and students. That said, we recognize the need for some in-person services to happen at school sites. We are bargaining in good faith to make those services available to our neediest students, while also ensuring that only those services that are absolutely necessary take place at physical school sites. Yesterday, we presented a counterproposal to the district for assessments that would require some special education teachers and related service providers, and some teachers of English learners to do assessments, but not until educators have been vaccinated. We'll put a link to the proposals in the chat below. We're going to have some tough bargaining challenges ahead, and we have to be ready. Today is an important UTLA anniversary. Today marks the day 2 years ago that we won our strike after 6 days on the picket lines. I've loved seeing all the strike memories folks have shared, the picket line photos you have put up, the endless shots of umbrellas and waterproof strike gear. But truly, the best way we can mark our strike anniversary is by remembering that our strike was powered by unity, built school by school, structure by structure. We celebrate our strike anniversary by building our capacity for collective action once again, including the building or reactivating of our almighty chapter action teams, or CATs. We have to be ready to fight against any attempts by the district to require additional in-person services before it's safe. We have to be ready to fight for a transformational amount of funding from the state and federal governments. We have to be ready to fight for a healthcare agreement beyond 2021 and for more staffing and special education support in future bargaining. This is what our students deserve. So make a commitment to go to every UTLA chapter meeting. Talk to your chapter chair if you're interested in stepping up as a CAT member. We must do this work in our new normal so we can play defense and offense in our fluid and unpredictable environment. Okay, now we have emerging information on the COVID vaccines and how the vaccines will impact all of us. We know that educators in other areas like New York City have already begun receiving the vaccines. So when LAUSD educators will be able to be vaccinated? When? LA County public health officials estimate that vaccines will be available for some educators sometime in February, but the county has had a really rocky rollout so far. So that timeline could be impacted by logistic and supply challenges. Also, this week, the district notified UTLA of their intent to require COVID-19 vaccination as a condition of employment for all employees. Anyone with a medically verified health risk would be exempt from this requirement. The district has proposed to the county health department that LAUSD schools be used for community vaccine centers, with school nurses helping to provide the vaccinations. UTLA has made a demand to bargain with the district over their vaccination plans, but LAUSD will have the legal authority to require vaccination for most employees. We'll have more information about the district's vaccination plans in next week's email and at the UTLA area meetings on January 27th. Some folks are asking if schools will automatically reopen once all LAUSD employees are vaccinated. We don't believe that all employees being vaccinated is a sufficient trigger on its own for the full reopening of schools, because neither vaccine currently on the market is proven to provide sterilizing immunity. What this means is that children who currently do not have a vaccine available for them, and especially the family members they go home to, could continue to be at risk. A safe path to reopening must include low community transmission and infection rates. Now on to an action you can take today to protect instructional time. One of the most frustrating and bewildering things about crisis distance learning is that during this pandemic, the district has actually increased unnecessary testing. Over-testing of students is a long-standing issue for educators. But this year, it takes on a new meaning as teachers and students are stretched to the absolute max. UTLA educators are joining with parents to call for LAUSD to eliminate the second and third installments of the EduElastic and Renaissance assessments, two tests that are not required by the state or federal government. The pandemic has highlighted how the systems in our society have placed Black and Brown students at a disadvantage. To expect that we can gather accurate assessments from students lacking heat, a warm meal, and a quiet place to focus is ludicrous. These assessments are negatively impacting our students by taking up synchronous instructional time and forcing teaching schedules to be rearranged. Allison Towery, the head of instruction for LAUSD, can make the call to stop forcing educators to use EduElastic and Renaissance assessments during this pandemic. But first, she has to hear from us. We will put in the chat below a link to a super easy way to call Towery today. It will only take a few minutes, and the link has sample scripts and talking points. Please make the call today. Students do not need more tests. They need more time to focus on a curriculum that is engaging. And now, just a few cool things to mention here. As I talked about earlier, today is the anniversary of the last day of our 2019 strike. Do you remember the art build? I know I do. We made incredible artwork for our strike. If you want to pick up a beautiful piece of art to commemorate that moment, check out artist Nicholas Lampert's silk screen print based on the iconic photograph of Miles Avenue EEC teacher Vivian Odega during the strike. We'll put a link to the post in the chat below. This month, I had my first meeting as a proud new member representing UTLA on the advisory committee of the Bargaining for the Common Good Network. The concept of bargaining for the common good is a centerpiece of UTLA's vision, where we use our unity and power to be a positive force to win improvements, not just for our own union, but for that of the community as a whole. The BCG network is doing transformational work, and I'm eager to be a part of that work and that team that is developing strategies and going on the offense to win moral budgets in our cities and in our states. Next month, on February 6th, the UTLA Racial Justice Task Force is holding its second annual Racial Justice Conference on Saturday, February 6th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. The theme is Transforming and Thriving, and the organizers are finalizing the conference lineup right now. All sessions will take place on Zoom, and the conference is free to all UTLA members. You know, if you went to last year's conference, there will be amazing content and righteous educator-focused perspectives on dismantling systemic oppression and building police-free schools. And here's a great thing. The first 100 participants to register and attend all the sessions will receive a copy of the new Denisha Jones and Jesse Hakopian book, Black Lives Matter at School, an uprising for educational justice. We'll put the conference registration link in the chat below. I'm sorry to have to tell you of more coworkers and friends who have left us. We will always cherish their memory and the time and experiences we shared, and we hold their family, friends, and colleagues in our thoughts. We learned this week that Wilmington Park elementary teacher Kim Jones passed away over the weekend. Kim had taught for many years at Normandy Early Education Center before transferring recently to Wilmington, where she taught pre-K children. Joel Vaca remembers his friend, Jermaine Labatt Jr., as a welcoming presence at every school. He was always looking to help students and their families. He says, as a young teacher, I knew I could turn to Labatt anytime I needed help. He was a lawyer turned social studies educator. He served as Title I coordinator at Fremont High School and then at Roy Ball Learning Center. He retired in 2016, and his life was taken by COVID-19. Wolfgang Buettner, math teacher at 32nd Street USC Magnet Schools, passed away on December 23rd from COVID-related complications. Mr. Wolfgang, as he preferred to be called by students and colleagues, was born and raised in Germany, and he worked for 20+ years as a sports journalist, mainly on German TV and radio. In 2004, he relocated to Los Angeles after he met his future wife, Nancy. Nancy was a high school teacher and was instrumental in his choice of the teaching profession. Wolfgang believed that his precious life and work experience could be an asset that he could bring to his teaching. From here, he lived his dream and became an inspiration and role model for his students. He worked at John Muir Magnet Middle School for 3 years, where he helped his students grow in their love and knowledge of math. He then moved and joined the 32nd Street LAUSD USC MAE Magnet family, where he maintained the same commitment to his students at the high school level. Wolfgang unfortunately lost his wife in 2019, but even through his grief, he always shared a smile and was a valuable part of the media arts and engineering Magnet family. He was a part of this close-knit school community for 3 years, and he will be missed by countless students and staff. He is survived by his 2 daughters, Luca Corbinian and Lilith Paulina, who both live in Germany. The Belvedere Elementary School community is heartbroken over the loss of one of its most beloved teachers from complications to COVID-19. Diana Rodriguez was a gifted, talented, and well-respected educator at Belvedere Elementary for the past 30 years. Diana was an LAUSD student and began her career at Garfield High School in 1985 as an aide. She met the love of her life, Jim, an English teacher, there. They married on December 16, 1989, and have 3 lovely children. Diana was more than a teacher. She was a dreamer. She envisioned the best for her students and then made it happen. She inspired her colleagues to follow in her footsteps. Be humble and kind. Appreciate the innocence in this world and strive to nurture everyone you touch with love and understanding. Her legacy will continue to live on in all that had the privilege of calling her friend, colleague, sister, tia, mother, mentor, and maestra. A GoFundMe has been established by Diana's friends to help create Mrs. Rodriguez Literacy Garden at school and complete her vision of a secret garden at home. Please give if you're able. We'll put the link in the chat below. I'll close with something I saw going around on social media that really resonated with me. We are living through immensely challenging times, often carried through our days on waves of stress and uncertainty. Sometimes I hit a wall. Sometimes we all hit a wall. But think of it this way. Sometimes walls are there so we can lean on them and rest. If today you hit a wall, lean on it and rest. I hope that you all have the weekend you need in this moment, whether it's hiking in the woods, binge watching Bridgerton, reading, taking a nap, or making a big pot of chili. Take care of yourself, rest, and rejuvenate. And I will see you next week. Stay strong, family. Stay strong. Because Together, we rise.